Well, those points turn out to be the ones that we'll be arguing about in the future. Such points as how, for example, how strictly should so-called outdoor advertising be controlled? That is, signs which do not refer to the premise, to the business on the spot, but are carrying general advertising unrelated to the location. And there are going to be arguments on this issue. Should signs which are flashing or moving be allowed in the city or not? And there's disagreement on that issue as well. Should signs that are that would not be conforming once an ordinance was passed, should they be allowed to continue as so-called non-conforming uses, or should they be gradually amortized out? And that's a critical issue. And those are some of the examples of the the fighting issues that still divide the committee.
Well, if I recall correctly, those were the very same issues that precipitated the whole controversy to begin with.
Well, not entirely. There were other things. For instance, the one of the early charges was that the interim ordinance was discriminatory and dealt differently with large businesses and small businesses. And also, of course, it was struck down by the court because the court felt it was ambiguous. It wasn't clear what was meant, and that a sign inspector, in trying to enforce it, would have to use his own judgment too much. That is, the law didn't clearly state what was allowed and what was not allowed. So that, in fact, there were a number of other issues that I think we're beginning to get beyond now into some of these other questions. In fact, we've gotten a good deal of agreement on many issues. I think it's in some ways surprising that we've gotten the agreement we have on many issues, and that we're down to the few fundamental ones.
Well, where would you say we go from here, based on your experience in other cities?
Well, we're in the stage now of having put out a draft recommended ordinance on our part, that is, speaking just as consultants. The committee is seeing it for the first time. It's full of all sorts of details I want to change, but also some of these fundamental issues still, latent in it as to which way it ought to go. So what the first step is that all of these things have to be aired. They have to come out. That rather than operating behind the scenes or in a great hurry, under council pressure and so on, that all of these issues come out openly in a committee that represents all the interests. What I hope we can do is that we'll narrow down those issues to just the few fundamental ones. And then, of course, it's really a political question. That is, what will be the political decision?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean political, incidentally, in a good way. That any decision that affects a whole city or a county or any other governmental unit has to essentially be decided by democratic process, by political process, by vote.
You mean give a little and get a little?
Yes, I think there'll be compromises made, and necessarily that's the way the interests will be worked out. As a matter of fact, the sign industry, as far as I know, has never denied that there ought to be some kind of public regulation issue. Of course, the cutting issue is how much, what kind. Yeah.
Has the industry come forward to you with any kind of a proposal in the Dallas case?
Parts of them have. That's what I'm saying. In the case of the outdoor advertising industry, they have not, and that's what we've been pressing for.